This is the second class of the Tantra, teaching the Tantra of Vajrabhairava. When you start, of course, you should have positive motivation. But in the Tantra, even beyond that, you should think of yourself as being the deity. You are in the playground of the deity. The game being played is the game of enlightenment, and all sentient beings are on the same team. Okay, with that thought in mind then, participating in the second class, the explanation of the two stages. This section has two parts comprising the explanations and the presentation of this generation and completion stage. Explanation of the presentation of the generation stage. This section has three parts: the practitioner, the place to practice, and the explanation of the presentation of the generation stage, which is to be practiced. The practitioner. Regarding what sort of person the practitioner should be, one should be, as it says in the 7th chapter of the Root Tantra, that is of Yamantaka. One having generosity, ungenerated commitments, no conceptualization. Now the Tibetan word for that is namdok, and so it's not actually having conceptualization, it means having projections and such. Namdok is to have a mind with a lot of superstition or a lot of projections about things. Okay, so conceptualization, you need conceptualization. If you don't have a mind, you can't think about things. And if you can't think about things, how are you going to generate motivation? Anyway, so it actually speaking is no projections. Conduct of the exalted ones, being a bodhisattva, respect for the teacher and full confidence in the Tathagata's teachings, being secretive of Tantra, not angry, compassionate, inclined to recitation and meditation concentration, and restrained from the action that produces bad fruition, karma. To a good disciple of such special good qualities, the exalted mandala, the Tantra of the glorious great Vajrabhairava, is given. Thoroughly investigate whether the disciple has a mind moistened with great compassion and no conceptualization. Again, so not a lot of projections. When the disciple becomes very pure, the teacher bestows the Tantra of the great Vajrabhairava on such a disciple. And as Acharya Shantinyana says, the four causes for accomplishing the attainments are follows: not turning back on the account of lack of faith, no doubt on the account of lack of wisdom, single-pointed concentration, and being extremely discreet. So not turning back on the lack of faith, meaning is that you would like to benefit sentient beings. You've attended the Buddha's teachings and you have great confidence in the things that Buddha talked about. And if you think about it, really, Buddhism really stands very well. For all of the scientific investigations, Buddhism comes up standing very well against it. Even His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, I invite scientific investigation, because if Buddhism has something that's erroneous, it's better it's removed, and if something is valid, and science should be able to validate it. No doubt on account of lack of wisdom. Now, wisdom is really important, but when we think about wisdom, we should put it in three categories. The wisdom of impermanence, the wisdom of continuity of cause and circumstance, and the wisdom of interdependence. So when you talk about, for example, the wisdom of impermanence, impermanence, of course, is that all things, both coarse and subtle, are continuously changing. But more important is the wisdom of implication. That is, for example, in regarding to possessions I have, my relationships, or my own body, then the wisdom says at the end of your life, all you end up with is how you related to those phenomena. So whether you had a lot of possessions or little possessions, all you end up at the end of your life is how you related. That's all the baggage you have. You don't get anything else special. So therefore, if you have possessions and they're good possessions, you end up with the baggage of arrogance and pride and maybe miserliness. If you have no possessions, you might have a reverse pride. I'm so poor and such. So really, if you have the correct understanding, then all you have is, in regards to relationship to phenomena, possessions, is practice generosity, share them and such, and then you have a sense of abundance about who you are and what you're doing. And that's a good relationship, because abundance has a natural sense of sharing. If, for example, in relationships, you have a special group that you hang out with and such, and therefore again you have arrogance or pride, or you're possessive, or actually negative side in regards to relationships, you're needy with low self-confidence. At the end of your life, that's all you end up with. Those possessions those relationships all finish, and all you end up with is what you've offered to them. So instead of offering your neediness, your possessiveness, your insecurities and such, offer your love, compassion, your wisdom and things. So then the relationships are healthy. And finally, the implication in regards to your own body is, I mean, for all that you do for it, feeding it and bathing it and rubbing creams on it and spending lots of money on it, getting it groomed and such, I mean, in the end, the sucker dies on you. I mean, such a dead-end investment. You know, rather at the end of your life to be able to sort of, you know, pat your body on the shoulder and say, good job, body, you'd worked well for the benefit of sentient beings. So in regards to the implications of impermanence, it's really like, I mean, I want to end up with having a sense of abundance in regards to my possessions, so it's easy to share them. I want to have a sense of good relationship, healthy relationship, because I offered wisdom, compassion. And finally, in regards to my own body, I did good jobs. In regards to the second wisdom is the wisdom of the continuity of cause and circumstance. Now, often we use the word karma, but it's such a sort of a blocky little word to use, because it's sort of like I have good karma or bad karma. What you have is a continuity of causes and circumstances. You are the ripening effect of past causes and circumstances. You are the creator of future your present attitude is the creator of the future causes and circumstances. So therefore, I'm thinking in that way, it's a little bit more dynamic, which is what karma is. Karma literally means activity, so the idea of dynamic is much better. And finally, the wisdom of interdependence. When you think about the ultimate nature of reality, there's a way of looking at it from the relative point of view and a way of looking at it from the ultimate point of view. If you look at it from the relative point of view, all phenomena universally are interdependent, lacking any independent self-existence. But that's a relative view on phenomena. If you're looking at it from the ultimate point of view, there's no object. It is the openness like space. It is the meditative equipoise like space, similar to space. That is, all phenomena, or let's say space, is the lack of obstruction. So therefore, the idea is on the ultimate point of view, I am like the openness of space. There's no obstruction. Space is universal. Like that, then I am empty of any independent self-existence. But the object is nothingness. It's the openness of space. With the understanding of not being independently self-existent. So I think better, more healthy for most people to think in terms of that all phenomena are completely interdependent. Not even an atom has any independence. It is completely interdependent. Therefore, there's the emptiness of self-existence. So with those three wisdoms, then you have no doubt, because your wisdom clarifies the meaning of why you're going to practice. For example, I am interdependent with all phenomena. If my self-identification is I am Yamantaka, I'm working for the benefit of sentient beings, that's a very positive, continuity of impermanence, continuity of cause and circumstance, and interdependence with all phenomena. Okay, single point of concentration. Well, as much as you could, you should try to concentrate, have a focused mind, and being extremely discreet. Practicing Tantra is a private event. It's between you, it's between you and yourself and your guru, so therefore it's not to be shared with other people, and especially the experiences. I mean, so often you get like teachers that carry on and they say, oh yes, I've realized the voidness or something. I mean, that's so much bullshit, because I mean, how do you know? The way that you would know if a teacher's realized that is they have no pride, no arrogance, no anger, things like that. That would be a really good indication that they have that realization. To say words is ridiculous. So the same thing, for students to talk about your tantric experiences is extremely low grade. Really, if you have an experience, it's your personal business. If you need to question about it, you talk to your Lama. The great adept Lalita says, one possessing the perfect qualities should first please the teacher. Thus, if one summarizes the meaning, the person should train in the mind stream and the common path, beginning with proper reliance on spiritual friends, should have received the empowerment in the mandala of the meditational deity, should properly protect the commitments and vows, which in our lineage is to do the succession guru yoga, and depending on the particular tantra you receive, then sometimes you get the short sadhana. And vows. In particular, one should have faith in the root of all white factors, that is the Dharma, and one should be motivated with compassion, thinks, may I attain a state of union, and that's enlightenment of the method and wisdom, or illusory body, clear light, in this life in order to liberate living beings tormented by the suffering of cyclic existence. Okay, that concludes the person. Then the place. Lalita says, first, staying either in a cemetery on a riverbank or near a solitary tree or a lingam, or staying in crossroads on the top of a mountain in an empty place in a haunted house, in a beautiful place on top of a building, in a temple, in a battlefield, in a ghost town, in a pleasant place, having sat in a comfortable cushion, set up the picture, another sort of image, and meditate. And in the questions of the Sabahu Tantra, a place blessed by holy beings, like Tathagatas is recommended. Therefore, if possible, one stays in a place where the Dakinis and their kind gather, or in a place blessed by holy beings, or in a congenial place that is none of these, such as one's own house. Having cleaned it well, apply the 5 nectars, sew flowers in front in a well-placed, comfortable seat, gather the necessity implements such as the inner offering, Vajra bell, hand drum, and so forth. And as it says in the commentary of the difficult points of the Tantra on the glorious Vajrabhairava by Acharya Shkobya, for meditation it is proper to rely on the picture as an objective support. Set up a concentrated statue of Vajrabhairava as the basis of clear visualization. Arrange beautifully in front of it the offering cakes and so forth, as one has been shown to do so in the traditional way. For the practitioner, cleansing the dirt of one's own body with water is external cleansing, and the cleansing of dirt from one's mind with the meditation of self-generation of the deity and protection of the commitments is the internal offering. Okay, just to come back to the 5 nectars are the, again, this is very much Hinduism, really involved in this, because it's reflection on the cow as being very important. So what you do is you get the milk, the yogurt and the butter from a cow, and also then the urine and the excrement of a cow. You mix those together, and those are called the 5 nectars. Why? Because the cow is a source of great abundance. It bestows many things upon you, so therefore this is considered it. And also I believe there's one of the Hindu gods particularly likes cows or something like that. So by using the 5 ingredients of a cow and spreading them, rubbing them on the wall and stuff like that. Of course, this is where you have an Indian house made with stone and mud, and then you would use this, and it's actually very durable. It's like putting plaster. Anyway, so obviously we wouldn't be able to do that, and I don't know, what we could do in regards to something similar, but anyway, it make the house nice and clean. Okay, one should do both. Let the hair hang loose, sit naked on a corpse as a seat, having smeared human ashes on the body, sit down and facing the south. Alternatively, if a corpse seat and so forth is not actually there, believe that they are and purify one's mouth with the nectar pill and blessing inner offering, believing that one is facing south, whether one is thinking in a cemetery, thinking it to be a cemetery, begin at midnight. So the idea behind it is that if you were to start the retreat, which is what this is really sort of referring to, is you start very late at night, maybe at 10 or 11 o'clock you should do your first session, and then the actual next morning at 6 or 5 or 6 in the morning when you start the first session of the retreat is when you actually start, but you start at that nighttime. You should face south or think you're facing south, but the funny thing is, in regards to mandalas, you're always facing east. Even Yamantaka faces east. Now, why would you face south and sort of think you're facing south, and then in the mandala that you generate that you're facing east? Well, the difference is this. Yamantaka, or Yama, the Lord of Death, abides or lives in the southern direction. And so therefore that's why you face that direction, because then it sort of aligns you with the whole idea of impermanence. And if you have the correct understanding of impermanence, then your relationship with your possessions, your friends, and then your own body is in the correct point of view. You sort of have things properly organized. Okay, that's that reason. Why do you face the east? And why do all mandalas face the deities in the mandalas always face the east? Because it's the side of the sunrise. It's the birth of things, the birth of the day, the birth of your enlightenment, the birth of your working for the benefit of sentient beings. So therefore you face east. And again, what's interesting is your east is in front of you. If you generate a Yamantaka mandala in front of you to make offerings to, its east is facing you. So you would have east facing east, but it's always in relationship to who is the central deity. So for example, if this thumb is the central deity of this Yamantaka and he's facing this way, that's his east. If this is you in your mandala, your east, this is facing, so the two easts always face each other. I mean, it sounds silly, but it has connotations. It's sort of like psychological to see the rising sun as the birth of something, to see a setting sun as the end of something. So it does have psychological implications for our mind. Really, when you think of Tantra, it is nothing but a huge dialogue of imagery. I mean, for example, let's say you own a BMW, you wear Armani, you have a Rolex watch and stuff. You reflect off those phenomena and you create this image of I'm rich and I'm wealthy. Or let's say you wear, I don't know, clothes from Army and Navy, or the, whatever, some sort of, inexpensive clothing, and then you drive an old beater of a car or something. Then of course you reflect all those objects and maybe you think I'm poor. Or you could reflect off those objects and think I'm frugal or something, again. So what you do in the Tantra is you reflect off yourself as Yamantaka. It's for the benefit of all sentient beings. You reflect off the Vajra, the bell, all the phenomena. I mean, you reflect off, for example, yourself as Yamantaka with the skulls. You reflect on the impermanence of phenomena and you have the correct perspective. The cleaver in the hand of Yamantaka cuts open the nature of reality. And with the skull cup, you scoop it up and you drink it. So again, there's lots of imagery related to give your mind a message. So for example, to have the East in front of you is to give your mind the message, this is the birth of my spiritual practice. Okay, so actually that's sufficient. The next section we will do is explanation of the presentation of the practice of the generation stage. So we've covered the practitioner and the place. Let me just get this right because I will forget. Okay, the practitioner, the place, and then we're going to talk about the generation stage. That'll be the next class. So these are short because obviously people are busy. They don't have a lot of time, but that's okay. This at least slowly gives a presentation. And if you are relying on the book, which is available from Tibet House in New Delhi and maybe Tibet Houses in New York and such, we're on page 13. We're on page 12 actually. Explanation of the presentation of the practice of the generation stage. Again, do a dedication prayer, by the merits of attending and participating and thinking about Yamantaka. May I quickly become enlightened. May I gain a close relationship with Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, and have more wisdom in my life. And I offer this completely for the benefit of all sentient beings.